Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another Sims Info and Thoughts video, and I'm sure confused right now because a blog post for an update to Neighborhood Stories just dropped out of nowhere, and as of this time of recording, there's zero context to it, so I don't know if this is coming out today, or if it's coming out sometime in the near future, but yep, this blog post just dropped out of nowhere, so let's read it. Okay, just editing this in later, yeah, this is actually part of a patch that is out now. So let's read this blog post first. So it says, Neighborhood Story System, from the neighborhood to the world, and then we have this nice graphic featuring the 3 base game worlds. Hello Simmers, Nate here again. As promised, I'm back to update you on Neighborhood Stories. First, a quick refresher about why I think Neighborhood Stories are a great addition to The Sims 4. And super cool, though I am admittedly biased. Okay, at least Nate is honest. The base game is packed with interesting moments that lead to all kinds of life change for individual Sims. However, the Sims living in the active household have the potential to experience so much more life change compared to their neighbor Sims. Last November, we rolled out a free update that added a set of life changes for neighbor Sims who have a personal connection to the active household. You can read all about that in my previous post about Neighborhood Stories. Today, I'm excited to update you on the new additions to Neighborhood Stories as we continue to build upon this feature over time. So I guess even this next update is not it. I guess there'll be a bit more. But Neighborhood Stories System. First major addition is life changes for all neighbor Sims with or without relationships to the active household. The new Neighborhood Story system opens up interesting autonomous changes all over the world. What changes, you might ask? Neighbor Sims everywhere may now adopt young Sims into their household aged between infant and toddler, become pregnant with their significant other, and eventually deliver. Family-oriented Sims are more likely to do this, while non-committal Sims are less likely. Okay, that's a nice touch. If a Sim or their significant other hates children, they will never do this. Some Sims may instead adopt a dog or cat. Requires the Sims 4 cats and dogs. Okay, interesting pack integration there. Join and leave careers. Sim traits heavily influence these decisions. Elder Sims may decide to retire. Households can move into and out of lots. Die in different kinds of accidents, depending on risk factors such as age, traits, and career. Okay. This I was not expecting at all. I don't think they even mentioned this when they were talking about what they were going to do in the future, like when they pushed out the first iteration of Neighborhood Stories. All these life changes let neighbor Sims have richer, fuller lives that evolve over time. They grow up in a family, get jobs, move around, raise children, and eventually die, possibly before their time. Some of these changes are obviously more significant than others. Death! This brings us back to the second major addition to Neighborhood Stories, configuring Neighborhood Stories. A critical part of the Neighborhood Story system is a set of new gameplay controls that allow you to tune which life changes neighbor Sims can and cannot have. Ta-da! Okay, so there's this picture here. Configure Neighborhood Stories. Enable them. Kazi? What? But die in accidents, adopt a child, leave a career, tie from career, have a baby, move in, move out to a career. Okay, interesting. It all starts in the Manage Households panel. Okay, just up there. You choose how Neighborhood Stories affect your game, so the Neighborhood Story system can be configured in a few ways. Independent configurations for my households versus other households. For each group of households in a particular tab, you can choose to enable or disable each type of life change, and even disallow all Neighborhood Stories for those households. This provides a fast and easy way to decide what happens to played households in my households versus other households out in the world. Rotational players, we see you! Yes! I am so glad I am seen, even though I'm not on a very strict rotational basis. I play a lot of different households. By default, Neighborhood Stories is enabled for other households and disabled for my households. Okay. Above all else, we want to avoid unintended changes to long-running games that we know you've put a lot of love into. Yeah, I suppose that is fair. When you're ready to configure Neighborhood Stories, use this button under the respective tabs for my households and other households. Okay. And then household specific configurations. Want even more control? Do you have a vision for which households need which types of life changes? You can make it happen. Each and every household can have its own configuration, allowing you to tailor life changes that make sense to that household storyline. Okay, that is interesting. They really are allowing us a lot of control here, which is what I wish The Sims 3 had with its story progression back in the day. Global enable / disable setting. If life changes happening all over the world are just not your thing, that's okay. Neighborhood stories can be entirely disabled under game options using the Reset Custom Configurations button. Neighbor Sim friends will still occasionally call asking for advice about life changes unless your Sim's phone is on silent. Like other game options, Neighborhood Stories configurations exist on a per save basis. Because each of your saves has its own settings, you can switch back and forth between them without having to reconfigure anything. Just load up and let the stories roll. What are Neighbor Sims up to? One last thing to note, these life changes are happening out in the world beyond the active household. This means that sometimes your Sims will never come in contact with the results of these life changes. Still, even if your Sims don't see it, maybe you want to know everything that's happened. On any mailbox, try the new Check Recent Neighborhood Stories interaction. You can keep tabs on all the recent neighborhood stories. If you're so inclined, use that information to visit the neighbor Sims and see their life changes in person. Okay. I mean, I don't mind that option existing, but how about a more interesting, realistic way to go about it? Like being able to look on the computer and you could just, like, browse the web and there'd be, like, an interaction to check those neighborhood stories. Or, I don't know why I thought about the newspaper. I don't think they're bringing the newspaper back, but that as well. I mean, yeah, that was in The Sims 3, wasn't it? Being able to read the newspaper and you could actually find out some life changes from that if you just use the normal read interaction. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. That could be a lot more interesting than just clicking on the mailbox and instantly having that there. I hope both you and your Sims will be delighted and surprised by what happens in the world around you. Dag, Nate. Okay, so it turns out this actually is part of a patch that has just dropped now, so, yeah, I'm not sure why this patch came out an hour later, but, yeah, that is a thing, so I guess I'll cover it later, because when I looked at the patch notes, they were mostly copied and pasted from the last patch, so they're not done, clearly, putting that up, so I guess that'll have to be in a separate video later. Alright, so the patch notes have been fixed now. We're just reaching new levels of ridiculousness. It's just finding new ways in 2022 to just really floor us with brokenness. So yeah, the patch notes are now patched. We'll skip the whole neighborhood stories bit since we just read a whole blog post about it. But there is a little bit more here, because now there are new scenarios available along with existing household support in select scenarios. So maybe I'll actually play scenarios a little bit more often now. But there are 7 new scenarios. So there's Too Many Toddlers, which is actually returning as a permanent one in this updated version of the previously limited time scenario, aimed to get the Happy Toddler reward trait for this gaggle of whiz kids in the making. Troublemaker. The kid's a menace. Choose the path of villainy or surprise them with a redemption arc. Rom-com. Is this relationship a joke? Only you can write the punchline. Super rich, super villain. Making a fortune is great, but you know what's even better? Stealing one. Extraterrestrial researcher. This sim wants to believe. Bring the truth from out there to your own home. Unlucky chef. Luck has nothing to do with how fired the chef is. No skills, no problem. Who said Sims need to be skilled to make it in life? Time to prove your street smarts. In addition to these scenarios, we've updated the feature to add existing household support to select scenarios. You'll also notice several tweaks and improvements to various aspects of the feature. I know I have seen people point out on Twitter that there is a label beside each scenario saying if they're easy, and then I think there's medium and hard. So yeah, that's cool, I guess. And there we go, there's all the bug fixes. I don't think there's too many that I see as super noteworthy, but they did fix the wedding venues to not be available for base game weddings, which is good. I was hoping that one would be fixed since it's technically a base game fix, not my wedding stories. And there's a few things listed at the bottom here I think are all related to neighborhood stories. Yeah, a few updates to the friendly calls from other Sims that your Sims receive. Your Sims will no longer be called by a neighbor Sim and asked about becoming friends with another active household Sim your neighbor has never met before. It will also be much clearer for friendly relationship calls now, whether the Sims' get-together is of a platonic or romantic nature. NPC Sims will also have sufficient confidence now, and will no longer call your Sims asking for permission to be friends with their own spouse. Oh boy, it almost feels like that would go into one of those highlight videos about like really like ridiculous patch notes. Maybe not quite the level of burglars stealing subway stations in The Sims 3 Late Night, but yeah. And yeah, my wedding stories, it actually did get 3 fixes. I felt like that we were still gonna have to wait until the next patch to get any My Wedding Stories fixes, period, but we got 3 of them. Ceremony interactions are now available when doing a vow renewal or a reception at another Sim's home. Sims should now show up in their appropriate attire for wedding ceremonies. Thank goodness. This is a big problem for me. Even with mods, it still seems to not always work 100%, so hopefully this patch actually fixed that for good. Vow renewal is now only available to married Sims, and wedding ceremony is only available to engaged Sims. Yeah, I remember I did see vow renewal come up for my Sims who weren't even married yet, so okay, that's good. That is fixed. Oh, there's even a couple of bust the dust fixes. Yeah, that's neat, but yeah, I will link to these patch notes in the video description below, as I usually do. So, yeah, wow, I was really caught off guard here. I was not expecting, I mean, it's not the biggest patch ever, but still, I was not expecting the second part of Neighborhood Stories to come this soon. I thought we were waiting until maybe the next expansion pack release, whenever that is. And, yeah, that's good. They're upgrading the scenario system a little bit more, that it might be more usable in more, well, no pun intended, scenarios in terms of play styles. But, yeah, interesting. I'll have to play around with the whole Neighborhood Stories and see how that is now. But that's pretty interesting. So now it's more in line with Sims 3 story progression, except it's even more customizable, which is good. That definitely appeals to players like me, so it's not all or nothing at all. But just from my first impressions of this Neighborhood Stories update, it does look pretty cool. I think I still need some more time to soak it in, but yeah, it looks pretty interesting, and I'm looking forward to playing around with that. And that wraps up another Sims Info and Thoughts video, so feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on this Neighborhood Stories update. And be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content, including life simulations and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!